What's going on, everybody? So today we're going to be tying an old school pattern. This is a very old, like 1400s pattern called the Alder. And in our vise here we have an Ahrex FW581 in size 10. And for our thread we're going to be using a Jimsflyco classic waxed in 12/0. As you know, 12/0 is definitely my favorite thread. We're going to go ahead and get our jam knot started. Now, for the longest time, when I would use this peacock herl, I would tie it in by the butts, and that is just not the best way to do it, I've come to realize. So I got 3 pieces here, and I'm going to tie it in by the tips. And the reasoning is because when you tie it in by the butts, for one, the stem, the rachis, is much thicker, and number 2, you don't get the taper that you would get by tying it by the tips, because at the tip they're a little shorter and they widen up as it goes back, or vice versa depending on where you pull the herl from. And I also like to, when I say pull the herl, I get just the eyes. I don't buy strung herl because it's been messed with, it's had a million fingers all over it. You know, I buy the eyes because they are untouched for the most part, right? So then we're just going to grab this and we are going to work our way up the shank about to the thorax area. And I'm doing touching wraps, but I'm not doing overlapping wraps, as you can see there. Once I get up to the thorax area, I'll grab this, I'm just going to pluck them away. And when you get it off the eye, I mean, look how nice that looks, right? If you're anything like me, you like to have nice looking flies. I may not tie the nicest looking flies by any stretch of the imagination, but I like to do the best I can. I'm going to grab an American whiting hen cape here, and the feathers that you're going to be using for a size 10 or 12 are only going to come from the very first 2 or 3 inches typically when you're using an American hen. And I like these American hens because you can get some tiny little soft tackles out of there. I mean, all the way down to size 20s, in the 20s, you know. All the way up to, you know, whatever size you want to tie in, really, for a wet fly. Then I'm going to grab this feather, and I'm going to start preening these fibers back. I've already took the bull crap off. And, you know, once I get to this point, I'm going to just come in here, and I'm going to leave just a little bit on there. Right, now the important thing is to wax your thread. If you do not wax your thread, then when you go to tie in that little tie-in point, it's going to pull out. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that. You go to tie it in, and then out of nowhere, it pulls out when you're trying to preen the fibers back. Well, that's because you didn't use wax. You don't have to use wax. There's ways around it, but that's the way that I do it, and I think that it is the most secure way to tie your flies. It makes everything tight. It just keeps everything together. Alright, so then we're going to preen this back. Now, if you prefer, you can run a pair of scissors along the stem there to preen those fibers back. I don't do it that way. A lot of people do. Whatever works for you, man. Or woman. Whatever. Get that secured. I'm just going to pop this off. And you'll notice when I went to pop that off, I pulled it both ways before popping it off. I pull it towards the eye, and then I pop it off towards the tail there. The reason I do that, it puts a little kink in it, helps it come off easier, keeps it from, when you go to pop it off, everything doesn't come flying out with it. Then I'm going to come up over these fibers a little bit because I want to pull everything down. Okay, then we're going to grab some turkey. Okay, now I have my turkey here, and I want the tips of the turkey to come just a little bit past the bend. Like, I like to have where the bend actually starts is where the bottom of my turkey, where it starts to go up, I like it to rest about right there. So now I'm going to transfer hands, and this part's disgusting, right? But if you want to do it the right way, this is how you do it. So I get some saliva on there, and get it in there really good. Now I'm going to pinch. I'm pinching the hook shank really tight, and also the turkey. So now I'm letting my thread hang, right? I'm doing a pinch wrap. So I'm gonna pull it up, so I pull this down, and then I'm gonna pull up and pull tight. And if you did it right, then you should have a nice little wing there. So it's not a complicated process, and the saliva really does help. All right, so then I'm gonna preen everything back here as good as I can. Clean this up. Now I like to lift this up and come in front of wrap. We're going to get in as close as we can here, and we're going to snip this off. We're going to add a little bit more wax here. And now I like to flatten out my thread for this, because I like to build a nice head on these flies. We're going to come in the front of the eye and work our way back. There's a couple little fibers that are sticking out, so I'm just going to come in and burn them out of there very easily. And I'm going to take my whip finisher and put a little finish on it. A couple little wayward fibers, just pinch them out. Now, I'm going to grab this wing and I'm going to pull it, I'm going to make a hump in it a little bit. Right, see how much better that looks now? Very easy to do, and if you'll notice, my wing is setting, I like to make sure my wing sets perfectly on top. So it's lined up perfectly. We're going to grab a little bit of Sally Hansen's. So yeah, man, that's it. That's the Alder. It's a very simple, very effective pattern. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Catch you guys in the next one.